All right. Hey guys. It's been a long time since we had a Let's Talk episode, especially a live one. And today is a pretty special one because it's an interview with Mr. James Simmons from GameApart. Uh, and I'm going to bring him in here right now. So everybody, if you have questions, feel free to ask them. And then we're going to make it an open conversation forum. We're going to get information from him about why he did what he did and anything about the gaming industry and whatnot. So let's go. Hi, James. How are you?
I'm good. How are you today?
Sorry about the rough entrance there, but
No worries. No worries. Didn't feel rough from my end, so all good.
that's good. Uh, so, again, as I said in the intro, how did you come up with this idea for Game Apart?
Yeah. I was it was about a year it's a little over a year and a half ago now, but basically we were in the middle of the first round of COVID lockdowns, and I think I was on what felt like hour 50 of Zoom calls for the week. It probably wasn't quite that bad, but it felt like it. And it wasn't with work. It was actually with a bunch of friends, and we were just hanging out and having some drinks, and it wasn't even me actually. It was someone else. Who was just like, "Hey guys, we're dying here. Like it's great to catch up. It's great to talk, but we got to do something fun." And so we went out and we searched for games over Zoom. We thought, yeah, this has to exist out there, and back in 2020, it didn't. And so I'm a tech guy. I'm a startup guy. That's kind of what I do. And
Hmm.
so that day we figured it out. We had fun with like we jerry rigged Jackbox, and we found like a free kind of Cards Against Humanity kind of thing. But after that, I called up my brother and said, "Hey, I think we could do something better." And we started out just for fun. We actually made Cards Against Humanity over Zoom for fun, and somehow the little project for fun turned into a company and a business and a couple funding rounds, and now here we are.
Yeah,
That's Game Apart. It's been a cool little ride. Didn't think this was a space I'd be in 2 years ago, but here we
yeah.
are.
There you go.
Yep,
You make You make lemonade out of lemons, as they say. So
exactly, exactly. And this was sort of our this was COVID lemonade.
yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm kind of surprised too that they didn't have something like that before. Well, before you, like, or before you even the thought.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, and I think a big part of it is because I mean, at the end of the day, like there's definitely been games like online gaming, right? I mean,
Hmm.
that's been around forever. I mean, I was trying to make it work 25 years ago, um, but I think what was missing was like super casual party gaming over video calls. Like that just wasn't as much of a thing. I think
Hmm.
because especially for most demographics, not every demographic, but most demographics, like before the pandemic, we just wouldn't sit on video calls for hours on end. Like some people would, but not a very large percentage of the population. And and so there was always kind of this mix, right? Like if you were a gamer, then yeah, jump online and play games. I mean, and that's you did that. But if you weren't, it's like there was nothing for those folks. Um, and like in this group of friends that I was with, I mean, there were definitely some gamers at the bunch, but for the most part, like the group as a whole, we'd go hang out at someone's house, and yeah, we'd go grab a deck of cards or pick a game off the shelf, and that happened all the time. And there was no parallel for that online. Like there was nothing simple, 2 clicks. How do we get started? How do we just play a card game or a party game or something like that? Um, and that's yeah, and that's kind of where we started and what we started running with. Um, and so first we built. So when we first started out, the idea was, well, we're just gonna license games and put them out there because I mean I'm an engineer kind of by background, and that's what most of the team was. And the first kind of couple folks we reached out to were like, yeah, we have no idea who the hell you are. So, like, why am I going to license my game to you? Like, I was like, what are you talking about? And so the first couple we kind of had to go build ourselves. So, we went out. We basically did like some market research. We said, well, what are the most popular party games in America? We got our answers. Turns out there's pretty much 6 answers that come back all the time. Um,
Well, let me see if I can guess a couple of them.
all right.
Uh, just because it's me and it's my favorite, Magic the Gathering,
Okay. Not on the list.
Yu-Gi-Oh. Really?
No.
Hmm. Okay.
Think like general population though. So
Cards Against
back all
Humanity,
the. Yep.
which I've actually never played. Actually,
Okay.
um, I've seen it played, but I've never played it.
Okay.
Uh, hmm.
Want
I'm
some hints?
blanking on the rest. I can't think of anything
Yep.
else.
So Monopoly, number one by a long
Really?
shot. Yep.
I feel like
By
that causes a lot of fights.
it, it probably does. But I think I'm trying to remember the numbers, but it was like by a landslide. So
Really?
Monopoly was number one. Cards
Hmm.
Against Humanity, um, Taboo, Heads Up, um, all the variations of poker.
See, I was
Uh,
thinking poker, but I didn't feel like that was broad enough. If
yeah, I agree. I think, and 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 I wouldn't have put that like I wouldn't have put that under like a party game
mm-hmm.
personally. But I mean that we asked it as an open-ended question, and so we got back poker, and like when you totaled up kind of all the different variations of it, and then what was the last one? Uno. So
Yeah, I should have thought of Uno.
yep. So
That or
those ones,
Supo.
yeah. So those came back, and those like people just got to answer what is your favorite party game, and those 6 represented like 51%. And after those 6, then it blew up. Then you had you know like pick your favorite board game, and it just started blowing up from there. So it's like 6 represented 51%, and then the other 49% had like 2 or 300 different games made up like a percent here, a half a percent there, and all that. And so we were like, well, okay, that's interesting. Um, wasn't probably what we would have, necessarily gone with either. But so we basically said, well, of these, some of these we can basically, let's be honest, we can make riffs on them without breaking anyone's IP. Monopoly we couldn't, but Heads Up and Taboo. I mean, at the end of the day, these are basically word lists. Um, and so we went and built kind of our own version of those games just to prove we could. And once we got that working, um, then people kind of believed that we had a platform, and then we were able to go out to game creators and start getting them just to license their stuff to us. And that's kind of where it kind of took off from there. Um, Now, so that was kind of part one of our journey. The place it's going now, which is kind of none of us really expected, was um, into the world of like team building and corporate use. So when this started, it was very much like friends and family. Have
Mhm.
fun, hang out online, and now it's kind of moved into this space of we still get a lot of those people. I mean, that's still a big chunk of our users, but like a lot of the people coming on now are remote workers, um, and remote teams who are trying to find ways to hang out together and have fun and get to know each other, and all that. Like it's all the people who you can't go out to lunch. I mean, that's just not a thing, right? Like you can't go out to lunch
Mhm.
because you might not even be in the same city. Can't go out to a happy hour. And so how do these folks kind of get together and get to know each other and like loosen up and laugh and maybe get like a little bit not safe for work, kind of find the line, um, and kind of going down into that space as well. And so we're seeing kind of a lot of the team building and culture building and all that kind of taken off, as well. And that's really the business side of it now. That's really what's driving the business. The fun is more what other games, what other, like how can we kind of work our way through the licensing and get kind of more and more content out there.
Now, is there any big and I mean, if there's information you can't give, that's fine. Is there any bigger games in general, uh, other than like doing the card game stuff that you guys started with? Like anything video game wise?
Nothing yet. I will say we're working on a deal right now that I hope lets us bring some pretty really well known brands on. And that's kind of been, I mean, that's the tough piece is in this space, like I mean, you sort of have the independent game creators,
Yep.
and they're easy to talk to, and they're great. Like they're, I mean, it's been fun to get to know kind of that side of the industry, because when you're talking to them, these are people who got into this because they love it, and they had
Yeah.
a fun idea and they love
Yep.
the space, so they put out some stuff, and they'll talk to anybody, and they may or may not initially, especially they may or may not license you their stuff. I mean, that's a whole different thing, but they'll talk to you and they'll engage with you and they'll get online or get together in person when that's possible. Um, and with that audience, I think we've sort of figured out how to have the conversation. And some people will say everything from "I don't believe in your model," which is totally fine, or dude, I honestly don't care whether your model is successful or not. I'm doing board card party games because I love this space and I think that trying to digitize them is a sin. like I, it's like
Oh yeah, you
it,
get that a lot with Magic players.
absolutely.
Like Magic players, I can't tell you how many times I heard it, and a lot of it's because we, as a general audience and a general consumer, we worry about we don't want our local card shops to go belly up. I have a friend
Hmm.
that owns a local card shop here about 15 minutes away from me. Um, and he's the nicest dude in the world. He's had the world thrown at him. He's been through hell, and I mean, we just want to see him succeed. We want to be there to support him, and he just he give you a shirt off the back if he had to.
Hmm.
Matter of fact, I think he might have actually when somebody that played games their house went up in flames.
Wow.
But I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. But that's the people that we worry about. And it's not a dig at you guys that
No, no.
want to bring it like broader, and we love you for that. It's just at the end of the day, it started as a cardboard game, and it's not so much um what am I thinking trying to say? It's not so much the vintage of it being done. And yes, people go overboard and say that it's sinful to digitize it, but we just don't want to see the local card shops go away. Is basically what
Yeah,
it comes down to.
yeah. And that's a tough one. And I think and you've definitely seen that, right? You've seen that with books, with bookstores, with
Mhm.
with video stores. Um, I I I would say I've been kind of pleasantly surprised over the years that like on the bookstore front, um, a lot, not all, sadly, but a lot of the two bookstores that I used to go to as a kid, have survived. Like they're still
Mhm.
there. It's actually it's the big boys that seem to be struggling more. It's the Barnes and Nobles and the Borders, um, that seem to really be getting their asses kicked more so than the places that actually provide community.
Mhm.
And and I think we're not here at all to say stop playing games in person. Like that's not actually me. And if I'm given the choice, and I say this, mind you, I've got a company and investors and everything that are behind what we're doing at GameApart. Um,
Yeah.
if on a Wednesday night I have the option to go drive over to a friend's place and play poker or pull out a board game or hang out, or I can jump on Zoom. and play the same games. I'm gonna get in my car and go over to their place. Like that's my choice, and this is my world. This is my industry, and so
Well,
I
yeah,
don't think
because
that
it's your community. It's tangible. I mean,
exactly. And virtual, no matter how hard we try, will never replace face to face. It's never going to
no.
be the same experience. But I think at the same time the world is pushing us more and more into virtual interactions, right? Like it's the world's getting smaller. I mean, people are moving further and further away. Teams are spread out far apart. Families no longer, you know, grow up and live their whole lives in the same place. I mean, it's just we're sprawling out, and um, and so there is I think a need for how do we make the virtual connection as good as it possibly can be, and I think that's where we come in, and I think that's where we try and find kind of the happy medium between the two.
Hmm.
Um, the industry is going to change, right? I think that's true of it doesn't matter what medium it is, like any entertainment medium, whether it was books or video or anything else. I think there's a certain amount of digitization that's just where it's at. I mean, we're
Yeah. Well,
you know
and the biggest place you're seeing it right now is movies. It
yeah.
was music back when iPods became a thing. Everything
Yeah.
went from physical media to digital media like overnight.
Hmm.
Now, pandemic went, and I mean, obviously we had streaming long before pandemic, like Netflix, Hulu, and all that, but it sped that up. It probably jumped it ahead 5 years in the span of 3 months.
Yeah.
I mean, look at HBO Max. They simul released all their movies last year, theater and on their app.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, so I mean,
And
you're not wrong. The market's changing across the board. I work at a
and
shoe store and I see it.
yep. And I think that's where the I think there's a level to which local stores can and will survive because of that sense of community. I think that'll be part of it. I think for them to thrive, there's a reality there that there's some kind of adaptation to this new world that has to happen. It doesn't have to happen this year or next year, but over the next 5 or 10 years, it's like how do you live in both, right? And I mean
Hmm.
that's what I've seen like with bookstores is bookstores, the small local bookstore has become more of a destination than a place to go and
Yeah.
buy books, right? It's like, I mean, it's you go, you hang out, you go see an author do a reading there. There's a coffee shop attached to it.
Yep.
There's often games there, right? Like it's more of like a hangout and retail versus just one or the other. And again, I don't. I mean, this isn't my world, so I don't pretend to kind of understand the economics of those businesses other than it just from the outside looking in, it's like they're changing so much. Feels like something's going to have to evolve there. Um, but I think that's what we've seen as we've talked with folks is um, there are some who are just dead opposed to what we're doing, and that's okay. Like I mean, I'm not here to go change everyone's mind. I'm not here to try and sell anyone on the idea that playing games over Zoom or online gaming in general is better. Um, but but most of the folks that we talk to in the space kind of acknowledge, yeah, this is the way that the world is going. That digital, virtual, online, you know, that's not the only place it's going, but that's part of it. That's something that's going to have to be there, and that's where we come in. And what we try really hard to do is preserve as much of the real world experience of actually playing games with people that we can. So like we'll do stuff where obviously when you're dealing with software um, and an online system, we could automate a lot of the game mechanics of these games. You could automate them all away. Like you could, trivia, right? I mean, trivia. You don't need someone to ask a question. You don't need a trivia master. Like none of those things matter
Hmm.
in an online system. But we still do it. I mean, we still say someone needs to read the question. Everyone else gets to see
Yep.
the answer like live, real time. You answer it, the whoever's the judge that round or the trivia master or whatever. I mean, they can still give you the point if they want, if for no other reason than we're laughing, we're having a good time, or like we try and do a lot of little things um, to force people to talk, to force people to engage, to make it less about the game and more about just like people hanging out and connecting and having fun. And then like what other little tools can we bring and to make it a little more exciting. That's kind of the nature of gaming apart.
I was just thinking about a couple of games that I think would thrive, and the one that keeps coming to mind, and I'm sure there's a ton of licensing involved in this, is Dungeons and Dragons. I can just
Oh
see
yeah.
Dungeons and Dragons working on your platform.
Yep. Oh yeah, absolutely. That's and the licensing probably would be a lot, but also, I mean, there's so much kind of individual creativity that goes into D&D that that's been on our list for quite some time, right? Like some like that kind of role playing. Um, one because I think that's one where there are things we could do to kind of elevate the experience a little bit. You
Hmm.
lose something too. I'm not trying to claim you don't,
Oh yeah,
but
because you lose the sitting around your table or sitting on your living room floor, and like I remember major D&D campaigns that I was involved in, and oh my god, some of the shit.
yeah,
Excuse
right.
my French, but
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
even know how else to describe it. But it's some of the things, man, that people come out with when they're making characters. Like, where in your brain did that ever come from?
Right. Like, what were you thinking? Um, but I mean, but I think there's also, especially now, it's gotten to be a lot harder, and I think there's a lot of things you could enable if you could do that online. Like if you could, and most attempts to do D&D online have fallen pretty flat, right?
Hmm.
Because it's someone trying to create like a true video game version of it, which isn't ever what it was about, right? It wasn't ever about graphics or like it was never about any of that. It was always about um, your own imagination, and it was about people coming together and riffing off one another. I mean, at the end of the day, it was storytelling,
Hmm.
and it was storytelling with some rules and parameters put around it, just to kind of force a little consistency, and and so I think that is something where an online, virtual like Zoom type based version of it could really thrive, because you could get some areas where having software behind it made certain things easier. Certainly, it could enable it to work over online in a way that you can't do with um, pen and paper and dice. I mean, it just doesn't quite fly. But yeah, I mean that would be a fun one to tackle. I think it would be a tough one, but yeah, that or something much like it has kind of been. So Holly, who's our game producer, that's been on her list. I'd say almost from day one.
Yeah, I mean that's if you had to describe your system that you have in place, and just without me even talking to you, my first the probably the only game I think of is Dungeons and Dragons.
Cool.
Because Magic the Gathering, they have Magic Online, or they had Magic Online. Now it's what, Magic Arena. So, I mean, they're kind of doing their own thing, anyways. Uh, Yu-Gi-Oh comes and goes and starts and sputters.
Hmm.
Pokemon, how that thing's still alive, I don't know. Uh, but it's just at the end of the day, when I'm thinking, oh, I guess I've never played Warhammer. Was it Warhammer 50K or something like that? If I remember correctly, I guess that
Ooh,
kind
I'm
of
not sure.
falls in the vein of D&D,
I
if I
don't know, to
remember
be honest.
correctly.
Yeah,
I mean,
could.
I wish we had people here in the chat that could correct me on that if I'm wrong, but I feel like I watched that game get played, and that kind of felt like D&D in a way.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, D&D is definitely the one that comes to mind when talking about what we're talking about.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, being able to keep track of things, being able to, like getting rid of a lot of the logistics, right? Like, I
Hmm.
mean, that's the hardest thing now is how do you get everyone, how do you get everyone together? Um,
Yep.
I mean, and so if you can kind of get rid of that, then it frees up. I mean, I think your ability to do it more often, to get deeper into it, to have um, kind of more complex campaigns, and maybe this is just me getting, I don't know. Maybe this is just like like me getting older and not having like the time to go and get into it as much. But it definitely feels like it's a lot harder um, to get into it. The way that I could, I don't know, 10 years ago or well, probably 15 years ago now. Crap.
Oh, I
Time flies,
agree.
man. Time
I mean,
flies.
I figured when the kids got older that I would have more time to like do my thing. I don't.
Hasn't quite worked out that way.
No, and I mean, I have extenuating circumstances behind it though too. Like my wife passed away, so I got three of my own that I had to take on. Had family that backed me the entire time. If not, I
Hmm.
don't know how in the hell I would have got through. My
Wow, that's
wonderful fiance that I'm with now, and she has her boy. Uh, so now we're four kids in the household, and now planning the wedding, and it's like there's always
congratulations. That's
something
amazing.
else.
Yep.
So,
And that's what life does, right? I mean, that's life does that. Life. The older you get, life just gets busy,
hmm
and I think, and it doesn't matter what it was. Like, I'm not. It doesn't matter what it is, but the more ways we can find opportunities to do the things we enjoy in little slices of time, I think
hmm
the better. I mean, and circling back, I would give me the Wednesday night or Friday night or Saturday night. It doesn't matter what night it is, but give me, I will get 5 or 6 people together and drive to someone's house and hang out
hmm
anytime. It's just getting
I
all
miss
that
those
together.
nights.
I know, right? But it's because they're hard now.
They
And
are
but
very
but
hard.
the reality of it is that a group text with a link can bring 4 out of 5 of 4 out of 6 of those people could probably be online tonight. Um, with very little notice, because it's like, oh well, I don't have to go anywhere. I don't need to get I don't need to get someone to watch the kids. I don't need to go anywhere. I don't need to plan the
hmm
logistics. I don't need to do XYZ. That buddy who moved across the country can join in, and it's like, okay, cool, we're all here. And yeah, it's not quite the same, but it's better than we would have had otherwise, which would have been, sitting at home. Well, actually, I would have been sitting at home catching up on Picard. So that's what I'm doing tonight either way. So it doesn't matter what my friends are doing. I haven't watched the first episode of season 2 of Picard yet. So that's tonight's plan. But other than that, yeah, you know, um, it's yeah, online is it's part of our. This is one of the things I keep saying now when I'm out talking to folks. It's part of our social tool belt now. Um, and it's not the best part, but it's part of it. And so we need tools to make it better. And
Well,
that's what
yeah, because we're a
it's all about.
social. This pandemic was so radical for us because we're as a species we're social. Like we want to interact with each other, and then
Hmm.
when we're told that we can't, and it's like it throws everything on its head. Like it's something like this. Like again, I'm surprised that we didn't have something like this. For all I know, maybe somebody had the thought and they're like, we'll never need it. Throw it away.
Yeah, or there
Like,
wasn't a big enough market. I mean that. Yeah, I think it probably was something like that. I mean, we certainly, when we were first starting out, we definitely got some feedback saying, well, there's just not a big enough market for that. Who cares? Like, yeah, that sounds cool. That sounds great. When I first got started, it was very much, hey, that's a really great idea. But as soon as the pandemic's over, that's no one's going to care anymore. And but we did a lot of research that said, now, it's certainly not going to be as insane. It's not going to be as big. Like no one's going to need it in quite the same way as they did, while we were in hardcore lockdowns. Um, but the reality of things hasn't changed at all. Like the reality of virtual interactions, of virtual work, of just life getting busier. Like none of that's going away just because the pandemic ends. I mean, it's really that the I think COVID made us all kind of realize. I mean, it just caused like a shift in perception. Like
Yeah,
it's
it did. It
accelerated
really
things,
did all across the board.
and it made us realize like our whole ways of interacting with each other and the way we spend our time. Like all that stuff is just up for grabs now. Um, and it's been neat to um, to be able to kind of be a part of figuring out what that sounds I don't know, it sounds kind of cocky to say it that way, because we're not figuring out what's next, but to be a part of figuring out like what is the next, what does interaction look like, and how does
Yeah.
connection work going forward, and like those are some of the big topics that we get to at least think about, that are really fun and exciting for us, is like how does all that work, and how can gaming, um, it's like I never thought I would get to be having conversations with like HR managers talking about how gaming in the workplace is like a key part of employee wellness, right? Like I just never imagined that conversation, and yet now like that is a conversation that's happening.
Hmm.
It is like that this is verging on a mental health type thing of how do you get people to relax, like when you've never met your coworkers, and your interaction with them is, well, I'm meeting with you from 9 to 10 and noon to 1 and 3 to 4. And the rest of the time, we're not meeting, and we might be chatting on Slack or Teams or something like that. And I may or may not be at my desk. You may or not be at your desk. Who knows? But I mean, that's your interaction. I mean, that's a lot of people. That's how they know the people they work with. And at the start of the pandemic, we had like this notion of kind of, we were all going through this shared trauma of like,
Yep.
okay, the world's kind of fallen apart, and
Yep.
and
The world
so
shut down. Nobody's doing nothing.
no, and so that was unique and different, and kind of a bonding thing by itself. Plus, most of the people we worked with, we knew. It's like if you and I had been
Hmm.
coworkers on, February of 2020, and now it's April of 2020. Well, we'd been in an office together. We knew each other. Um, I knew generally a little bit. I mean, presumably, maybe not, but hopefully, I knew a little bit about your life. We'd gone out to lunch. Like we had some kind of a relationship to build on.
Yeah.
Now you have people who work together who've never met, who have never had a conversation outside of scheduled Zoom meetings. And it's like, okay, how do those people bond in any meaningful way? Um, how do they have any kind of connection to their work other than like I respond to emails and I show up to meetings? I mean, it's like those kinds of things, like that. Now that we're finally, yeah, I'm gonna knock on wood here, because I've said this a couple times before, and the world has proven me wrong. But now that it seems like we might finally be coming out of this pandemic, um, it's time to start thinking about that stuff, and time to start figuring out like what's normal look like now. Like for those of us who are going to go take a job and might never set foot in that office, like what is that? How does that work? Like
Hmm.
how do I make friends at work now? Yeah, so that's fun for me. That kind of stuff. Like the fact that I get to like work on that, and that I actually get to, almost every day sit down and play games as part of my job. Um, has been
Yeah,
pretty
I'm
cool.
kind of jealous about that.
Yeah, that's not gonna lie. That's been a pretty cool perk, and
I get to
we
sell
do,
shoes.
and you get to do this though.
Oh, very true.
Yep.
So
So I think we all, I think that's another part of kind of the new world we're evolving into, is we get a lot more flexibility in what we do. Um, Like, there's so many more options and so many more ways to like express yourself and engage with people that just weren't there a few years ago.
Well, yeah, I'll be honest. The pandemic's what pushed this forward. It's what pushed Hotel Nerd Network forward. I mean,
Hmm.
I had a Facebook group. I tried in starts and sputters to try a YouTube channel out just to see if it would work, to no avail. I'm still not quite where I would want to be because, again, going back to the conversation about life, things got in the way or
Yep.
things became more higher priority. This for me, this is a fun exercise for me. Like I enjoy this. This is my cup of tea. This is what I went to school for. I went to school for IT stuff. And so anytime I get to dab into computers, I'm in my happy place.
Yep.
Uh, but I mean, my 9 to 5 that pays the bills, that's me selling shoes. That's me interacting with customers. Like, but that's why I said I'm kind of jealous that you get to do what you're doing. It's like I would love to do that. Like I would jump on board on any opportunity on that. But uh unfortunately, that's not offered to me, and where I live in rural central Pennsylvania, ain't much for tech around here. So,
Yeah, I can see that. I do think that I do believe that geography is going to matter less and less as we go here. I think
oh, I'm already starting to see it. I
right?
do. I don't know if you ever heard of a company called Field Nation.
No.
It's for people like me that have a degree that want to use the degree, basically freelancing.
Hmm.
That
Okay.
they basically are intermediary between customer and us, and they plug us with work orders, and if we're available to do them, we do them.
Hmm.
So we're independent contractors. I'm seeing a lot more things coming up in Field Nation about remote work. Like
Yep.
I saw one for Sony in Tokyo pop up, but unfortunately, I don't meet the prerequisites to work it. Or else I would jump on that in a heartbeat. I'd go out, buy a whole brand new computer and everything, and use that solely for that job. So that way it never got bogged down, and I was able to get work done.
Hmm.
And then I'd have what I have now as my play toys. I mean,
Yep.
it's already being done. The remote settings are already happening. Like you said, pandemic pushed it forward.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think the world was probably heading that way anyways, but it's 5 years faster at least than it would have been
Mm-hmm.
otherwise. Um, and yeah, I think where you are, it still matters, right? I mean, it's we're not quite to where it makes no difference um, where in the country or where in the world you are, but I think that with every passing year, it's going to be where is the right talent, and whether you happen to be close to an office of the company or not is going to matter less and less, and whether the company is where the company is located is going to matter less and less. um, I've got a buddy who just started a new tech company, and they're 100% virtual. They went and got themselves an address on Market Street in San Francisco just because at the end of the day, there's like a certain image associated with it. But
Yeah.
there's not a single employee of that company based anywhere near the Bay Area. Um, the actual, when you start digging into it, the company itself has very little to do with California or anything. It's totally virtual. It'll never have an office. Um, it's still oddly weird to go talk to banks. Like a lot of the world hasn't caught up yet to that. It's like even just going to open a bank account, I guess, and it was like, so where is your office? Well, we don't have one. Okay, but
How are you
like,
working?
where is your primary place of business? It's online. Okay, but we need an address. It's like, okay, cool, use this one. oh, well, that address is in Illinois, so you really need to be talking to our Midwest regional team. Like, what are you talking? I don't need to talk to them. I just need to, like, I mean, why? Like, why does it matter? I'm never gonna walk in. This was to open a bank account. I'm never gonna walk into a branch. I'm never gonna need a conversation. I mean, maybe if this business does phenomenally well someday, he's like, I might need to talk to a banker. And if so, if it's ever doing that well, none of y'all are going to care what part of the country I'm in.
Yeah,
Like,
because you're gonna look at me and be like, oh, money, yay.
yeah,
Like
exactly. And it's either we'll do it online because it'll be 10 years from now, or I'll fly to you or you'll fly to me or whatever. Like, how does this matter? And it's just such a strange thing. Like where I feel like some of us live in that world where you are has absolutely no bearing on what you're doing, and then like the rest of the world hasn't quite caught up.
yeah.
But I think
If
that
if I move 3 hours to the east, New York City, sure, I'm good. I'm gold.
hmm
But where I am living around the Amish, I ain't got nothing. So
yeah,
a 1 day trip is all it takes for everything to change. But then again, I also don't have $1,000 to shell out for a closet in New York City. So
yep, yep. Well, yeah, I think that is going to be an interesting and maybe positive outcome from the last couple of years. I don't want to say it's a positive outcome from COVID because that's not quite right. But like a lot has changed the last couple of years, and
mhm.
I think that the realization, and this is it, right? So I pay the bills because GameApart, sadly to say, isn't paying the bills yet. We're spending more money than we're making, so I pay the bills by advising other startups. Um, and coming into the pandemic, I was working with uh, a, I was working with a few companies, but one or two of them were dead set against people working remotely, and it was very much like, we're going to do this because we have no choice. Like, the
Mhm.
government is making us send our employees home,
Yeah, I
and how do we
remember.
manage it?
I remember this first couple of months where you had companies are like, "No, we're staying." And the one that comes to mind, ironically enough, is GameStop. GameStop was steadfast. Like the governor here in Pennsylvania literally had to send state police to every GameStop store and shut them down. They
Huh?
refused to close because they
Wow.
said, "Nope, no pandemic here." So, like,
That's crazy. I mean, it's so strange. I mean, and it was so interesting with some of these companies where, okay, like GameStop. I mean, I honestly have no idea how much of an online presence they have or not. Um,
if they have any, I'm shocked,
yeah,
honestly.
like, okay, so I can understand a little bit if you're an online. I mean, I'm sorry, if you're a brick and mortar retail business. Um, hey, so be it, right? Like those folks, and I had some friends in that were in like the hospitality space, and it's like, yeah, I
Yeah,
get it.
I
If
worked at a
you're
hotel and we had they didn't want to shut us down, but they had to. We were
Yeah,
shut down
and
for a month.
and so for those businesses, like, I get it. Like, your business is coming to a screeching halt. So yeah, you don't want to shut down. Totally understand that. if you're a if you're a tech company, if you're a software company, if that's what you do, um, it made it's like then the objection was purely stubbornness, right? It was just like, we don't trust people, we don't want people working remote. I can't see them, so I don't know what they're doing. It was all of those things that those were the
Yeah,
ones I just didn't get. Like
if I
that was
remember correctly, Google used a lot of them arguments.
I
Was it
think
Google or was it Microsoft? It was one of them.
it wasn't Microsoft, because I think Microsoft has sort of had a work from wherever the heck you want
Yeah, they did,
forever
didn't
mindset.
they?
Yep.
Maybe it was Google then,
Maybe it
which is
was.
kind of ironic considering the fact of how casual they are.
I mean, but I think also it's like, I mean, they're sort of famous for how much money they've invested in their campuses, right? Like,
True.
We've got cafes and daycare and crazy gyms and all this other stuff. So I mean, maybe there's like this whole infrastructure that they'd invested in to, like, in large part, to keep people there, right? Like, I mean, and don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking Google or anyone else, but like a lot of the psychology behind building up these crazy campuses for these tech companies, I mean, yeah, like part of it, of course, was you want happy workers and you want to give cool perks and all that, but it was also, well, if you do all this, people are more likely to stay at the office longer. Like if you have gyms and showers and free breakfast and lunch and coffee shops and game rooms and all this other stuff. And like I was at a startup, I was running a startup that we had a similar philosophy, albeit on a much smaller scale. Like people are more inclined to come and spend long hours at the office because, well, I might as well go a little bit early because I can get breakfast there, and then
Yeah, you get your
and
creature
then
comforts.
you get your creature comforts, and then I'm going to work through lunch because I can run down to the cafeteria and pick it up and come back to my desk, and I can go. I have the flexibility to go to the gym at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and work out, but maybe that means I come back to my desk and instead of leaving the office at 5 to go to the gym, I'm now at the office till 7 or 8, right? Like, I mean, there was a definite there was a definite calculus in all this stuff. I don't blame any of these companies for it, mind you. Like, I mean, if it worked, good on them. But I think there was a big investment in kind of the psychology of getting people in the workplace like maximally productive, and that's all had to change. And now it's like, how do we rework all that in 2022 when people have moved out to all over the country and they don't really want to come back. Um, I know folks who I know folks who moved out of the big cities and were like, I can go and afford instead of my little 1,000 square foot apartment in California, New York, I can go and afford a nice home somewhere else in the country, or I'm living in an apartment in Hawaii now, or like any of these other like permutations of things. And no one's going back, so the world's gonna have to figure out how to live with it. So all
Yeah,
these things that kind of factor in.
I'm just looking at your website right now. I looked at it last week too, and I was going to share it here with your permission. If
Yeah,
you're
please.
all right, here, let's see if this will actually work for me. There it is. So there's the website.
Cool.
This is the right
Yeah,
website, correct?
that's us. Absolutely.
Yeah. So you got it really. It's spelled out pretty simply here. I mean, 3-step process. Gather up your people, select your game, and connect and start playing.
Yeah. If you don't mind, I mean, can I walk you through like two more mouse clicks?
Sure.
Yeah. So just go ahead and hit start a game there.
Okay.
And that would bring you into this. And we don't actually have to start a game, but just for you and for anyone watching, that's how it works. And so once you picked any one of these games, I mean, it would make you sign in at that point. It is free, so it's totally free to host games. Anyone who's joining the games, it's free with an ad, or folks can sign up. It's $5 a year, so it's not going to break the bank. Um, but yeah, it's just you would click any one of these, and it would bring you into a game lobby and just give you a QR code, and you join on your phone. Your phone becomes your controller, um, and you're off. And that's GameApart in a nutshell. Um, you can see on there we do integrate straight to Zoom,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of the big one. We're building out integrations to Google Meet and Microsoft Teams as well. But yeah, that's what we've been building.
Yeah. That definitely. I mean, it's simple. Like I don't even have words to describe it. It's just it's simple. Like My
It
kids could
is.
even figure this out.
They could, and yeah, we've got the all ages down there. So a lot of the same games, like you'll see some of the same games in these. Um,
Hmm.
the difference is like if you go into the kids version, like everything's kind of auto filtered and safe, and it
Well, yeah,
basically
like
just
here
like
the Gifts Against Society, that's a kids version, and then you have it up here for
yep,
the adults.
yep, exactly, and so yeah, so that's Cards Against Humanity. Except it turns them into a meme. So that's the difference, right? Is it takes the text and bounces it against Giphy and creates a new meme on the fly. So every time you play, it's different. Um, but yeah, like the kids version is definitely safe and good for all ages. But yeah, it's I mean our goal was keeping it simple, right? It should be just a couple clicks to get started. Um, there are products out there, Tabletop Simulator, Tabletopia, Board Game Arena. Like there are definitely products out there if you want to play um, board games online to do that. And we're not trying to beat out those guys or compete with them. For us, it was more if you're sitting on a Zoom call with people and they're like, hey, I just want to have a little bit of fun. How can I do that quickly? That's really
Yeah.
what GameApart's all about.
Yeah, we're going to take a 15-minute break, and so, let's play around at Uno or whatever. Like,
Exactly. Exactly. Let's just relax a little bit. You know, or
shut our
yeah, we're at a
brains
pause,
off.
or we're waiting for something, or whatever. Like we just want to laugh a little bit. Could play, one of these games, Fluster, which is just basically like, you know, um, I'm blanking on like the old pretty, but basically it's like deep questions to each other, right? Just get to know each other a little better, stuff like that. Um, and yeah, we got more coming. So we're trying to release a game a month right now. Um, and the next one, which is oddly so to me, this just surprises the heck out of me. But um, the most requested game, other than those six that I've mentioned first, but the by write-ins, the most requested game we've ever had is Bingo. Again,
Really?
I have not played, and I'm sorry if there are any Bingo fans that are watching this or ever watched this. I personally have no use for bingo whatsoever. like it is like number,
Oh, yeah,
900
because you're
and
going to play bingo. I want to go play at the fire hall for prizes. Like,
yeah, for me it's not my thing. It's not my cup of tea. But we've had so many requests for
huh,
bingo. Um, Mostly, I'll
interesting.
say like it comes from teams and it comes from like charity groups that want to do it. Like online charity groups, maybe with like a prize, right? So it's like donations and prizes and all that stuff. But we so that's the next one that's coming out. Um, but a couple more kind of in the queue behind that. Other ones that we've licensed from some of our partners um, coming down the pipe, um, and we hope to be accelerating that soon. I mean, the goal here is kind of the Netflix of board games, and so eventually you go in there and you see um, dozens and eventually hundreds of titles available to you.
Yeah, and uh, I'm trying to think. I'm part of a Discord uh, network. I'm trying to think of the name of the group. They do like a Power Rangers version of Dungeons and Dragons.
Okay.
I would love to get you guys together and talk because I think you guys could do some really great things. I'm trying to remember the name of it for the life of me right now. I think it's called, yeah, there it is, Power Rangers Master Force.
Okay.
They, I it's something to look into there. I don't know how well versed you are in the Discord. I dabble into it. I've never actively participated with them, but I feel like that would be somebody you might want to talk to. That might You might be able to pull something together. But I feel like you're gonna, with Hasbro having Power Rangers now, you might run into a roadblock there too.
Yep.
So
Hmm. Okay. No, we'll definitely check it out. Um, Hey, I'm so sorry. Can you give me just 30 seconds real quick? I'm so
Sure.
sorry. All right, give me just 1 second.
So I see we have two people in watching right now. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to share them. We've been waiting for them the entire video, and so far nobody's really um, sent anything in. So
Yeah, by all means, ask away. Sorry about that.
no, you're fine.
Yeah,
It
I
happens.
yeah no I had I thought I'd heard the baby yelling at me from next door, and so I figured I'd pop on the baby cam real quick, and she wasn't in her crib, and I was like, oh
Oh,
crap, what happened? But
oh
apparently
no.
my wife came home and, and grabbed her and all that. What's
Doesn't like
going
making your
on?
heart stop.
Yeah, no, totally. Just like but all's well. So,
Well, that's good.
oh
I've
man.
had those moments. I don't miss those moments.
No, right? Kids are an adventure, that's for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
So we're rolling up on an hour here, and I had an hour blocked out. Uh, is there any other details that you wanted to talk about, or
Well,
uh,
I think, I mean, we've covered, we've covered a lot. I think it's really just, this notion that as I said, in no universe are we trying to displace um, your traditional getting together in person and playing a game. That's not what we're about at all. But I think that this world of being remote is here to stay, and so in that space, if you are one of the 550 million people um, sitting on Zoom or Teams or Slack or Google Meet every day, we're here for you. That's what we're about. That's what we're building for, and hope to get to keep doing it for a while here.
yeah, and I'll definitely be sharing out the links and everything, so that way get you more well known. Because I hadn't heard about you until um, yeah, can't remember what app that was that I used to
Yep.
even set this interview up.
Yeah.
Um, Matchmaker, I think it was. Yeah, Matchmaker FM. Um,
Cool. Well,
I
I'm
I
glad
knew
you did.
nothing about it.
Yep. No, we're just kind of early days in terms of getting word out there. We've been we're doing a little bit of marketing, but it's really just been in the last couple months that we've started getting serious about getting the word out, and letting people know that we exist and we're here, and uh, come check us out.
Yeah, and anytime you want to come back on and like make announcements or anything, uh, I'm sure we can figure it out.
Love it.
It's not that hard to get my schedule to flex. So
Perfect. All right. Well, no, love to talk to you again sometime. Really appreciate it. Enjoyed chatting today, and talk again soon.
yeah, absolutely. Uh, again, this James Simmons from GameApart, CEO, correct?
Yep.
All right, I want to make sure I get the title right.
I mean, I wear a lot of hats, so that's a good one though.
Yeah. Um, yeah. Any more information, I'll post everything down in the description below. The link to the website, so that way people can go and check out the games. And let's make this thing happen and make it bigger. And
Cool.
because I mean, I don't see anything but benefits to this.
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Likewise. Have a good night and best of luck in your endeavors.
All right. You too. Take care.
All right. So that was James Simmons from GameApart. Uh, Thank you for joining us this episode of Let's Talk. I know it kind of came together pretty quick. It actually was supposed to happen last week, but I had some issues on my end that I had to take care of. So we got it together this week. Um, for those that did end up watching, spread the video around. Get this out there because this is a great product that I think that could definitely help. Especially, I mean, I live in central Pennsylvania. We get snowstorms all the time. Boston just had a blizzard here in the Northeast a month ago, and they got dumped on with 3 feet of snow. Ain't nobody going nowhere in that. So why not just play a game? But yeah, all the information will be put down in the link description below, and we'll catch you next time on Let's Talk.